welcome. Thank you for joining us today. My name is John Colon, and I am the VP of Sales with Innovecs. I'll be moderating today's supply chain panel with a great company, two amazing leaders. With me today, I have Sushant Pandita, who is the Global Program Director with Maersk, and I will introduce Sushant in a moment. With me, I also have Andrew Slusher, the President and CEO of SMC3. Sushant, Andrew, thank you for joining me and the rest of the Innovecs team today and our viewers. If we could start with you, Sushant, and you could just give our viewers a little bit of a background on you and Maersk, of course, and take it from there.
Yeah, thanks, John. Always a pleasure to talk to you and to be a part of this panel. I have been working with Maersk for the last 9 years now, across 2 continents. As many of the people would know, that Maersk is one of the biggest companies in supply chain and management and logistics as well. We have offices in 130 odd countries and around 80,000 employees working across the world. I currently deal in supply chain management, but I have previous experience of freight forwarding, ocean, and then air freight as well. So it would be a pleasure to be on this panel to solve and to answer some of the main critical aspects of the supply chain because of COVID-19. So yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
Great. Thank you for that. And Andrew, if you'd be so kind to just give us a short overview of your background and SMC3, that would be great.
All right. Thanks, John. I'm really appreciate being included in this today and looking forward to the conversation. SMC3 has been around for many years. It's an 85-year-old company, and it actually originated as a rate bureau, helping manage rates in the southeast region of the United States in the days of regulated pricing for the less than truckload industry. In the 1980s, as deregulation went away, or as deregulation took hold, I should say, SMC3 morphed into a technology business. And today it offers data, technology, and educational services to the logistics industry. So we have many, proven solutions in the industry, and I'd be very happy to speak to those and the value that they bring today in the world of COVID-19 as we know it.
Great. Thank you for the introductions. We're going to start off with a really important question that has come in from some of our social media channel viewers, and clearly something you just touched on, Andrew. I'd like to start off with just finding out how, we'll start with you, Sushant, if that's okay, but I'd like to find out how has Maersk been able to, if you will, put a Band-Aid on the pandemic with supply chain. Additionally, what are some of the things that Maersk has done to really make sure that its supply chain keeps moving forward?
Yeah. So I think I will try to phase it down in basically 3 phases. The first phase started in the month of February, when we had the pandemic arriving in China. That basically impacted the supply side, the upstream of the whole supply chain, which was so all the customers, our main customers, are in the Western countries, so Europe and US. They faced the supply challenges, so they were not able to get the goods onto the water or onto the air or the other modes of operation. So that created the first challenge. The second challenge, when the pandemic reached the other parts of the world, basically the Western world, that created a demand issue. So the supply side of the whole supply chain was working okay at that point of time. So I'm talking about middle of April and to basically end of May. But then the demand at the destination started to come down. So we faced that challenge. We tried to devise solutions to get things in order. For example, we had numerous solutions of forward storage, CFS storage at the origin, destination storage at the origin, also trying to give visibility to the supply chains, because we are working in a very different world now, with technology and Internet of Things coming into place in a big manner, but still there is a lot of gap on the overall supply chain. For example, a customer like Walmart doesn't know, uh, or they have limited visibility of the raw material supply chain for their own vendors. For example, in Bangladesh, so it was kind of an eye opener for all these customers that the supply chain is not only limited to your own suppliers. It's also very important to understand what is happening upstream. That visibility was missing, so we try to give that visibility as well. Obviously, it's a very difficult task, and it will not happen in a matter of 3 months. It's a long it's a long task. It will take a lot of time to get these things in order, but at least we have moved to the first step, in which we are looking at customer centricity, trying to understand what the real problems of the customers are, not looking at supply chain in a silo manner, looking at end-to-end supply chain, looking at visibility solutions, looking to give demand sensing solutions to customers, and customers have onboarded a lot of solutions from our side. We are also looking at we also had to withdraw some of our key vessels or key lanes. We call it trades in our business. So we had to decrease the capacity of the vessels in majority of the lanes, because the volume was not there, right? So but we had to redivert, and all this was helped with the help of technology. The final stage is the current stage, when we are into the tail end of the pandemic. So now we have to now recoup the whole supply chain to the same level of probably January or December last year. So that is going to be a different challenge, which we are seeing now. We obviously have a supply of vessels, but now the customers want more containers on that vessels. So that whole revamping and increasing of the capacity will be a different challenge, and obviously technology is helping us in getting to that level. So
Great.
very holistic way of looking at supply chain. We are lucky that Maersk has this scope and the bandwidth to implement all these solutions, and we were able to support our customers in the best possible manner in that manner.
Good. We're going to touch on transparency in just a little bit. Andrew, how has the pandemic and COVID-19 affected SMC3?
You know, SMC3, as I mentioned, has been around for 85 years, and we have what I would call very proven solutions that we provide the industry. Our solutions really focus on delivering pricing information and transit time information into the TMSs throughout North America, supporting the LTL industry. We also have other tools, such as a bid procurement tool, which is for the LTL and the truckload industry, and a cost information system, which is an activity-based costing model that is used by the carriers to understand how much does it cost to move a shipment from point A to point B, so they can more accurately manage their pricing decisions to ensure that they're making a profit on each and every move. The good news is, from an SMC3 standpoint, we have rock solid financial condition, very proven solutions. And as you go into a pandemic type of environment, the first thing that I recommend is you've got to make sure that your business is on a solid foundation. And the benefit that we have is many companies who have used us, and those who are not using us have come to us and they've said, we need to use these solutions because we know they work. And that's kind of the first phase of this. Make sure you're on the solid foundation. The second phase is if you're in a position where you can afford to invest, you've got to move rapidly. The environment is changing at such a quick pace. The lane balance situation is very much out of the norm, because the composition of the goods being shipped has varied from a normal pattern to a very unique pattern with healthcare, food, and things like that being the primary goods that are being shipped these days. Also some household residential type delivery goods. So what that's caused is, for a lot of the trucking companies, is some significant challenges keeping their networks in balance. So you have the solid foundation with some of the core tools, but these companies are also having to adapt very, very quickly. It's agility to be able to adjust what sometimes are a bit of a fixed network of
Yeah.
assets, trucks, and trailers to address the shifts that have happened so rapidly with kind of a downturn in manufacturing, upturn in healthcare and food and supplies. So some huge swings. SMC3 was very fortunate too going into this in that we have a strong business continuity plan. We had begun monitoring the pandemic as it unfolded in China at the beginning of the year. We went into some crisis planning really in late February and into early March as it was starting to hit the U.S. And a few years ago, we equipped all of our employees with laptops. So we launched a test in the very beginning of March to see if we can truly go to a full working remote environment successfully. And I had done this about 4 years ago because there were some hurricanes that swept through Florida and on into Georgia where we're based. And I thought, if there's a natural disaster, we need to be prepared to keep the operation running. Fortunately, we have data centers across the United States. We have failover redundancies. So we have multiple layers of security and multiple layers of backup to ensure that SMC3 continues to deliver the solutions that are needed by this industry on a day in, day out basis. So we did our work from home trial. It went very, very successfully. And as of March 13th, our entire company has been working remotely, and we continue to do so at this point. So it's been a quick transition for us, but it's one that we felt that we were very prepared for. And fortunately, all of our employees have been healthy, which allows us to serve the industry very well.
Yeah, and it sounds like speed along with accuracy. One thing that really stood out to me, Andrew, was you just said it, was we moved fast. And, one of the things that I've noticed with some people that I've networked in supply chain is that word. We had to work very quick, neck breaking speed. We had to make a lot of decisions without really knowing what those outcomes were. So all good stuff. And Sushant, would you say that speed was also a big factor in Maersk's case as well?
Yes, absolutely. I echo what Andrew said. I think for an organization to work entirely from home, it is unprecedented. We have not seen it, probably will not see it in our lifetimes. We had to work with customers, provide solutions which we have never provided to anyone else because no one wants these solutions. To stop cargo, for example, at a hub in Dubai or something. So those kind of things, we had to devise solutions which had to be very new, and we had to devise them very quickly. So speed was probably the most important aspect of the pandemic response. Yeah. And you can imagine that 70,000 odd people working from home. It's unprecedented, as I said before.
Yeah, John, I was on a board meeting for SMC3 yesterday, and we have many of the largest LTL companies represented on our board, as well as some of the largest logistics companies in the industry. And the consistent theme that I heard from them was speed. And they said, SMC3, you need to continue to move quickly, but as important as that, they have to move rapidly to figure out ways to better utilize their fleet. And in a business and labor intensive, profitability is really measured on very thin margins, and you've got to make sure you're extremely efficiently utilizing those assets in business. And as the freight flows have changed as they have over the last few months, efficient asset utilization becomes very, very challenging. So they're having to take traditional systems and really build extensions onto those to navigate through the uncharted territory that we're in today.
Sure. And what reassurances, if you've had to, have you given to clients? I know that you have lots of clients, Andrew, but what are some of the reassurances that you may have had to put out there directly or indirectly with some of your clients to let them know, look, we're remote based. We've pivoted awfully fast. And have you, besides giving them reassurances, have you had some positive feedback?
We have actually. We've done quite a few things actually. Our marketing campaign and theme we changed very, very quickly as soon as the crisis hit, and we really went to a marketing campaign that focused on brand, reliability, and trust. And we are, again, a proven brand in the industry, one that's been around a long time with a lot of experience in this space. So we really placed a visible emphasis on that. Our sales team, our employees, we have had webinars with customers. We've had frequent phone calls with customers. Unfortunately, we had to cancel our summer conference. We host 2 conferences each year, and we did have to cancel the June conference, which was scheduled to be in Boston. But anyway, and that's an opportunity where we meet with many of our customers in a single setting. But we've been on the phone, working the phones, answering emails, being as responsive as we can. Again, webinars, training. We just launched also an LTL education program. It's a 5-part course where you can learn about the LTL industry. And we've heard that numerous logistics companies have had to downsize as an unfortunate result of the COVID-19 pandemic. But for those who they need them to be very aware of LTL. And a lot of them are working remotely, so they can't host training programs on site like they normally do. So online education on the industry becomes a real powerful tool. So we've engaged with our customers on the educational front, one-on-one through phone, web, etc. And that's been very powerful. The other thing we've done too is we've focused on really 2 primary areas during this pandemic. Number one, it's our employees, and it's the health and well-being of our employees. My team and I are in frequent communication with all of our employees at all levels of the organization to make sure they're doing well, that they have the tools they need. Because if your employees are healthy and they're well and they have the resources needed, they're going to be in a position to support our customers. And then the other part of this is delivering basically high quality solutions that our customers expect. And that's where the frequent communication with our customers has paid off as well. So there's a deeply rooted sense of support from SMC3 amongst our customer base that we found to be positive, and we've done our best to try to maintain that throughout the crisis.
Sure. One thing that stood out to me, Andrew, was the education part. I think in many ways, and I look at my career, but particularly with Innovecs, the educational part, I believe in the long run will also add to your client retention rate. And I say that because there are so many people that have been in supply chain, in my experience, for 30 or 40 years that have been shook by anxiety and fear, where it's crippled them with in many cases making decisions. Clearly not the case with you, Andrew. So thank you for sharing that with me. And Sushant, has Maersk put out any type of educational material? I mean, clearly, if the company is pivoting because of the pandemic, and to Andrew's point, we've got to give the clients direction. I know that you're very big in retail with Maersk, Sushant. So if you could share a story where maybe you've had to educate a client, that would be great.
I think as Andrew mentioned, the priority for us has been the employees and the customers. It's one of the values of Maersk to have constant care. So we have been we have moved towards the customer centricity in the last 1.5 years. But I think in the pandemic, this come to the fore a lot more. We have definitely supported a lot of customers. For example, a major European footwear retailer, we gave them solutions to make sure that their supply chain is protected and they don't have to cancel the orders at the origin. We gave them solutions to enhance their whole supply chain so that we are able to store the cargo at the origin, store the cargo at a middle hub or something. For example, a hub in Salalah, and also store cargoes at the destination, which is in Europe, in Hamburg and in other European countries. So, and this has these things normally are very expensive for a company like any retailer, because the margins are very, very low. But because of the pandemic, we gave them solutions which were not that costly as well. So we were able to work towards the customer on a customer focus basically. So these are some of the examples which I have. We had to stop supply chains for majority of our retail players because essentially all the stores were closed for 2 weeks. Some countries 2 weeks, some countries more than that. So we had to basically stop the whole supply chain. It's very difficult. So you can imagine that someone who is shipping around 70,000 POs on an annual basis, we had to stop the whole supply chain within 2 days. So wherever the cargo was, we had to stop it. So that is the kind of volume we had to stop. So that requires a lot of customer interactions. So and the trust which the customers have shown in our operations is tremendous. So they trusted our ability to make sure that we are doing the best thing for their supply chains. And uh, a- and I think everyone, all the freight forwarders across the globe have been doing this for the last 3-4 years now. Oh, sorry, 3-4 months now. So my advice to every company would be that we should listen to the customer, interact more with the customers, try to understand what are their main pain points, develop strategy on the basis of their pain points rather than just pushing the strategies. So we have to listen to the customer, have a feedback loop from the customers, and that's what we have been able to achieve in the last 3 months. And we can see that results are now coming. We are able to get new businesses out of this, and that is definitely going to help the whole brand as well.
Yeah, all great advice. All great advice. Just for you viewers out there, do not stop that type of supply chain in 2 days without consulting with someone like Andrew or Sushant. Thank you, Sushant. We're going to move it along. One of my next questions has a lot to do with something I love tremendously, which is data. So we'll start with you, Andrew. How has data analytics and insights played an overall role with your teams as far as predicting what supply chain is going to look like as we move into Q3 and Q4 and forward?
Okay, I would just, I guess, emphasize that the speed of decision making needed in a crisis like we are in today really drives the need for access to data, visibility to data, and the right data. As trucking companies and logistics companies try to balance this network that was thrown out of balance so rapidly, there are a variety of tools that can be used to really improve the flow of goods, the pricing of the goods. Some of the tools I know that we offer, and there are others in the industry that have it as well, would be dynamic pricing capabilities. And it's the ability to price given new lane balance constraints and needs. You can price on a real-time basis to keep yourself profitable and commanding the price you need to operate profitably in those lanes where the imbalances exist. So dynamic pricing is critical. Quick access to, it's really visibility into shipments. You need to be able to see how the goods are moving, where they're moving. You know, in the United States today, it's not only the COVID pandemic, but we've had some situations involving some civil disturbances and riots over the last month. And that creates security issues in terms of how you route trucks. Do you route a truck down the normal path if it leads you right into the risk of civil disobedience affecting the product and the goods on those trucks? So you need to have constant visibility into your dispatch process, your routing of the tractors and the trailers, and where the goods are moving and the paths they're taking to ensure that you can ensure really safe and secure delivery of those goods. So I'll just say data is highly critical, and there's a huge push in the LTL industry as well as truckload to provide that real-time visibility to shipments moving throughout the network and to enable pricing on a dynamic basis in the industry.
Great. And what product within the SMC3 cloud, for some of our viewers that might be looking into new technologies, I don't want to make this a sales panel, but I would like our viewers to, there's so many products in the SMC3 suite, but what would be a particular product where they could pay close attention to real-time pricing?
We have a variety of products, but our traditional products are Rateware and Carrier Connect, which provide standard contractual price information, rate quotes, as well as transit time. But just last year, we launched what's called Volume LTL, and that provides volume or truckload type quotes on a dynamic basis. And it's really not all truckload; it's even less than truckload shipments. But we make those available as well. So we have Volume LTL out there. We also have a dynamic pricing solution out there for LTL that is rolling out. So anyway, those are a couple of things you could look at that would provide assistance in that space.
Great. Thank you for sharing that with us. And Sushant, what level has data analytics and insights played in with Maersk, and how has that helped?
I think the most important aspect of the supply chain is data. So as initially in the discussion, I said that customers are not aware of their upstream supply chains. Where Maersk is, Maersk obviously, because we have a wide network of carrier. We are the biggest carrier in the world. Then we have SCM capabilities as well. We have ports as well. APMT is a company for us, and we are developing new products like TradeLens, which which work on blockchain capability, and we are trying to manage the whole end-to-end supply chain visibility, which is obviously which is going to be a very helpful tool after the pandemic as well. During the pandemic, because of our scale and the connections we have with the customers, so electronic connections, EDI, API, and all that stuff. So that has helped us in getting the right amount of data from the customers to understand what the demand is within our top 100 or top 150 customers, and then we are able to manage the capacity of our vessels on the basis of that, manage the capacity of our CFS, container freight stations at the origins, on the basis of that. So data has been able to help us in understanding which trade lanes we have to deploy more vessels on, which origin offices we need to pay extra attention towards. For example, Bangladesh has been closed for the last 6 weeks now. I'm just giving a rough example. So we were able to manage our vessels towards probably moving into Asia or leaving aside the Indian subcontinent. So all that has helped us in understanding the whole supply chain. So we are able to deploy the right resources. We have a e-commerce platform called Twill, which is very similar to what Andrew is mentioning. There is real-time pricing. We have a solution for Maersk Spot, in which you get a quote instantaneously. It's like an airline ticket. So you go to the website, you click, you want to go from Shanghai to Felixstowe, you get a rate for that. So that these kind of things that have come to the fore now because of the whole digitization of the supply chain. These products will come to the fore, and we are talking about them with our customers. We are seeing a tremendous growth in all these new initiatives, and we understand that integration of the whole supply chain is important, and data will be the integrating factor. So if the data is there, the companies who put their minds into data will be the companies who will move forward in the new world.
Totally agree, Sushant. I actually grew up in the airline industry in the 80s and 90s during really the data revolution, that industry, and I can't agree more with you, Sushant, about the value of good and timely data. And we're seeing in the United States, at least North America, really a data revolution affecting the truckload and LTL industries over the past 10 years. There's been a huge infusion of capital, new technology companies emerging. It's been a really exciting time, actually, in the transportation industry in North America, as I think the value of data is truly being recognized and capitalized on now. And this is a classic kind of storm that we're all facing that really expedites the pace of that change that we've seen.
Sure.
Definitely. I think one more thing which probably we can do more of is visibility dashboards. That is something which is missing in the supply chain currently. We know that this is wrong in the supply chain, but how do we get to? So it's important that the decision makers within supply chain companies and also within the customers have the visibility, have the understanding of where the pain points in the supply chain are. So visibility dashboards are assisting towards it, and Maersk is developing a lot of visibility dashboards as well. We have a partnership with one of the pioneers in this, E2 Open. It's a functional partnership where we are developing new generation TMS softwares for the customers. We're also looking at dashboards for the customers, which is definitely going to help us in getting to that root cause of the problem, and then providing solutions to the customers.
Sure. And it's so good to hear both of you touch on technologies that are really the future for supply chain. Prior to joining Innovecs, I was a consultant for a company, and really what I would like to say that stood out to me really loud between both of you talking here was just how much data has been extremely useful for you, and not only predicting, but almost everything. And I'm going to just lean into my next question here, and I'll start with you, Sushant. And it's the question I think our audience has been waiting for, and we've touched on it 7 times already. So it's about traceability. The question I have for you, Sushant, is what role is artificial intelligence, Internet of Things, IoT, blockchain? Talk to me about some of the hot buzzword technologies, if you will, that Maersk is testing or perhaps has rolled out. I know you mentioned blockchain, and I'm very familiar with IBM's Fabric Ledger, and Azure and many others have followed that path. But talk to me a little bit about what other technologies are helping, and what areas, if you will.
So I think the biggest technology we are working towards is TradeLens, which is a joint collaboration between IBM and Maersk. It basically gives the visibility of the entire supply chain, and is based on blockchain technology. So a lot of customers are coming onto it. We have a lot of other ocean carriers, not only Maersk, who are part of it now. And with time and with the current scenario, I think it has definitely come to the fore now that these kind of technologies are going to help you in the future. We can see that the acceptance of these technologies by the customer is at a very high level. So TradeLens is one such technology. It obviously looks at making the whole supply chain paperless, because if you relate to the supply chain, the customs process is a very cumbersome process. So a lot of documentation, a lot of paperwork has to go through it. But TradeLens tries to avoid that with the help of electronic documentation, which is definitely helping, which will be a big selling point for us in the future. So TradeLens is one such technology which is utilizing all the buzzwords of the current supply chain. The second thing would be our strategic partnership with E2 Open. So we are developing, as I said, we're developing a lot of systems to help augment the whole supply chains of our customers. We are working on new platforms to give visibility to the customers, working on dashboards to give visibility to our customers. So and that is again something which probably we have not done in the last 5 years, but we are coming into it in the last 2-3 years. So we're also recognizing that this is something which is important to us. Then we have products like Twill, Maersk Spot, which basically make it so easy for someone to go and book a container, which was not the case probably 3-4 years back. We still have to talk to a person to get a container, but that is all history now. So you can go to Maersk Spot and place your order. You will get a quotation. If you think it is suitable for you, you can basically book a container, and then it will go on to the vessel. So you don't need to worry about the supply chain. We'll take care of the supply chain for you. You worry about the main part of your business, which is production and manufacturing. So these are some of the top items which we are working on. And obviously, with the current situation and our goal to be the integrator of the supply chain, we definitely feel that there is a lot more we can do, and we are doing that as well. So it's a continuous improvement kind of a thing. So it will keep on happening.
Thank you for sharing. And Andrew, what I'll put this out there for our viewers. Innovecs has done a tremendous job working with Andrew and his team and helping develop some of his software. But what particular technologies stand out to you, Andrew, both today and for tomorrow, right now for SMC3?
Yeah, and I'll avoid speaking really a lot to our products and more to just the industry and some of the trends that I see unfolding. But as I look at the supply chain now and into the future, one of the next big waves of change will be really the interconnectivity of the entire supply chain. Today, there are a lot of companies that offer shipment visibility solutions that are focused on a single mode. Well, a lot of these shipments are moving across the ocean or by air, connecting into a truckload network or an LTL network in the US or vice versa. And the ability to have visibility to those shipments across the entire supply chain and that interconnectivity of the modes will be extremely important to suppliers and customers of those products. So I think that's going to be one of the next waves of large investment in the industry. I also think that AI and predictive analytics will play a role, and it's really to be able to predict where the chokeholds will be on trucking company networks, operational networks, supply chain, et cetera. And there are so many elements of data available today that can feed into that, where you can truly have a predictive analytics type model that can drive your pricing decisions, that can drive your operational decisions regarding your fleet, better asset utilization, et cetera. So those are some of the key areas that I see movement in over the coming few years.
Great. Thank you for that. We have some questions that have come in over the last, give it a couple of weeks, and some of them have been around traceability. Now, given my experience, which is not nearly as close to both of yours, I do know that there are some companies out there right now offering solutions with IoT sensors for ships, tractors, and for air freight, where some of these little sensors are running on IoT with 4G or 5G signals and reporting back to a hub real time. In summary, what I'm driving at is with that type of technology running on blockchain, why are we seeing so many medical supplies disappear from the supply chain? Is it an internal issue? Sushant, if you could, or Andrew, both touch on that just a tiny bit. A lot of our viewers, in fact, almost 7 or 8 of them have said, why are we missing ventilators? Why are we missing masks? Why are we missing N95? Why are our nurses and doctors during this pandemic globally suffering from medical supplies gone missing? And we've heard leaders of this world use the word supply chain in their address. So if I could start with you, Sushant.
Yeah, so I think by nature, medical industry has a lot of theft. It's not. I will not say it. Probably it has come to the fore because it's one of the most important industries right now. But by nature, medical industries, medical supply chains already have a lot of loss and a lot of theft, which we have to take care of. I think the most important thing which medical supply chain and the freight forwarders can do is to make sure that we are vetting the whole supply chain. We are looking at the history, as Andrew mentioned earlier in the discussion, that we have to make sure that we do root analysis, so that we are able to understand if there is a particular route where we are losing a lot of the cargo, or a lot of theft is happening in that route. Again, the crux of the situation is that visibility is the most important aspect. These elements of the whole supply chain have not been taken into consideration much. We have talked about these things a lot, but we have not done much about it. It's not only probably limited to a particular country. It's a global issue. So we lose around $40 billion globally due to theft, and majority of the theft happens when the cargo moves from manufacturing locations to the port. Because right now, most of the countries, I will not say all, but at least Western countries and majority of the developing world as well, lot of theft, not much theft is happening at the manufacturing locations or at the port or at the DC. So majority of the theft or the leakage happens en route. So it's important to understand what is happening in our supply chain, and that can only be done if we have the visibility of our supply chain. So maintaining that visibility is important. Uh, Keeping a track of your goods is also very important. Uh, we do the tracking, but then the balances and the measures are not up to the mark, so that creates these challenges. And to anyone who's handling the medical supply chain, I think it's important that we embrace the new technologies and try to find a new methods to get the amount of theft and the leakage to a very low level. There are things called electronic tracking systems, which we have been trying out for some of the customers. So that is something which might be very interesting to start. Obviously, it's very difficult to track each and every consignment in medical supply chain. It's easier in retail and lifestyle, but
Sure.
that is something which we can start doing, I think, to a
Sure.
at a much higher level.
Sure. Thank you for sharing that with me. And Andrew, if you could touch on, you know, what can some of the supply chain managers and leaders that are in the medical space, what are three things that you would recommend that they do to stay on top of minimizing theft?
Yeah, I think a couple things. I would echo Sushant's remarks, but a few things regarding theft would be you need complete visibility into your supply chain and the movement of the goods. Also, there are steps that trucking companies and transport providers can take to secure their facilities. And I know a lot of the providers that provide transportation solutions for the healthcare industries have very stringent requirements in terms of the handling of those products. So some of it is finding a carrier that specializes in the movement of healthcare goods versus just the least expensive, provider of transportation. I know in my past life, I've worked in a logistics company, and we had to provide very sterile transportation of certain types of baby food products and things like that. And that's where, I hate to say it, you get what you pay for. And if you want a very highly secure solution, you need to have a provider that basically they may charge you more, but they can provide certain assurances as to the safe transport of those goods. Mm-hmm. The other thing I would suggest too is if I were buying goods in the healthcare space, or really any space at this point in time, being tied to a single source manufacturer is a bit of a challenge, because there have been disruptions at manufacturing facilities across the country. There have been demand differences around the country and really around the world. The same is true, where certain facilities are tapped of their inventory immediately. And unless you have a secondary or multiple other sources of that type of product, you may be without product for a while. So I think having a multi-source solution of certain types of goods is actually very, very important during a time like this, to ensure that you can keep the necessary products on hand that you need to get through the situation.
Great. Thank you for sharing all of that with us. I know our audience will appreciate the advice from both you and Sushant on that. And I know that our audience will probably have a lot more questions after this. And if you do, for those of you that are watching, please feel free to chime in and comment in the box. If you're watching it on LinkedIn, there'll be a box down below, or YouTube. Feel free to chime in. And Andrew and his team are prepared to answer questions, as well as Sushant. I'd like to as we have about 5 or 10 minutes left with this, just sort of open it up for a casual discussion about supply chain. And Sushant, I give you a few minutes here with the spotlight on you. What are some of the things that you would like our audience to know about Maersk that they could reach out to you for, whether it be advice or working with you?
I think the biggest thing which Maersk is doing is that we have this integrated strategy, which is we want to be the integrator of supply chain globally. So as I mentioned previously in the discussion that we own the ports, we have our own vessels, we have a supply chain presence as well. We are moving into IoT, blockchain, and many other new digital platforms. So that is something which should be the focus for anyone who is listening today as well. I think majority of our issues in the supply chain are because of data scarcity. We don't get the right data at the right time. So that is something which we at Maersk want to excel in the coming years. That is part of our strategy, and I would just want to implore people that we should embrace technology. Historically speaking, supply chain is something which has not really put much thought into the data aspect of the business. So for many of us, data and the technology seems very complicated. So it's very important that we also let go of our own demons and move forward and get on to this data journey and move towards digitalization of the supply chain. So that would help everyone. It would help our customers. It would help our employees. We can I can from my own experience, I can see that if we make our processes automated, we can decrease like 20% of our work. So that is very helpful. And this is I'm talking about a very lower scale kind of thing. So my day-to-day work. So we can decrease that, and I can only imagine that if all of us embrace that, it will be a big saving for us.
Andrew, this just in. So Samrit from gettruckdrivers.com put up, Andrew, how can I get my truck drivers who are working on an LTL level to trust that these sensors are not invading their privacy? I didn't prepare for this one, but it's a great question. I would agree. So I know you work with lots of trucks, lots of truck drivers probably. Andrew, what would you say to Samrit from gettruckdrivers.com? I would imagine that if they've got these sensors that are tracking loads, maybe they're carving out time to visit their families during that shipment. What would you say to Samrit from Get Truck Drivers, Andrew?
Well, the sensors actually can be beneficial in that not only does it allow assign the driver the optimal path, but can also lead them through more secure and safe locations in cities if they need to alter the course or the route of the truck from a safety standpoint. So there are a lot of benefits to those sensors. And I know there are a lot of people that feel like, oh, Big Brother's watching me or whatever, but that is really not the intent. The intent is to, again, provide for safe delivery, safety for the drivers, the smoothest, most efficient means of getting from point A to point B. And the companies that utilize that to the greatest extent will actually most likely provide the best and most reliable service as well. So I would say that those types of devices are actually extremely valuable, not only to the carrier, but the safety of the drivers and the customers receiving the goods.
Mm-hmm.
Great. Thank you for that. And one question that just came in for you, Sushant, is what is Maersk doing right now with regard to its shipping containers that are stuck out at sea in some ports with valuable goods?
So we normally follow the same thing for any of our containers. So I don't think we have a lot of containers which are stuck basically, but obviously that must be because of one of the solutions we have provided to our customers. So we are looking at various solutions, and I don't think we have any capacity shortage or anything like that. obviously, because of the pandemic, there was a demand which was constricted, so we had to redeploy our vessels and also probably to slow stream some of our vessels. But we should be back to normal very soon, and we are seeing that as many of the leaders of global leaders have said that it will be a U-shaped recovery. We are entering into the upward curve now, so we can see that the volumes are coming up. So it should solve itself in the near future.
Sure. So we is it safe to assume that a lot of local ports? I know here in the U.S., the head of the country has made it very clear. Our president of the country has made it very clear that he's allowing decision makers at a local level. And so my assumption is that that's probably happening globally. But thank you for the insight on that.
Yeah.
I'm sure our viewers today will definitely take that advice. And so we've got just a few minutes here, and so I'm going to open it up. Andrew, I see a question here. So this one from Mike Radabudian with L Squared Supply Chain out of Dallas, Texas. Thank you for watching. Andrew, question here. Does SMC3 solve for supply chain visibility and traceability real time?
It does. We recently introduced a suite of products using API technology in the LTL industry, where we actually can monitor the flow of a shipment from point A to point B. So we do have a suite of solutions that does that. And then what I would say is if there are shipments in other modes at this point in time, we have other providers that we work very closely with that we can refer someone to if they need truckload or parcel or air. But there are a myriad of solutions out there and available in the industry. We do provide coverage for the LTL industry today.
Great. Without further ado, I am going to wrap this supply chain panel up. Thank you to all of you viewers for watching us today. Thank you so much, Andrew Slusher, once again, President and CEO of SMC3, and Sushant Pandita, who is the Global Program Director at Maersk. For all of you viewing and watching, if you have any questions for the company I'm joined by today, or myself, or for Innovecs, feel free to chime in on whatever platform you're watching this on. Again, whether that's LinkedIn, YouTube, or whether you're just engaging in some of our social media posts. Again, we thank you for watching us today. My name is John Cologne, VP of Sales with Innovecs, and I look forward to networking with all of you through some of the channels. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks.